Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 22nd chapter. A slothful man is compared to a filthy stone, and everyone will hiss him out of his disgrace. Right? Basically, nobody wants a slothful man around. Right? They're compared to a filthy stone. Right? They're gonna hiss. They're gonna look down. They're gonna speak down on him out of his disgrace. You know, a slothful man is compared to the filth of a dunghill. Lord have mercy. Every man that taketh it up will shake his hand. Like that's, dunghills is exactly what it sounds like, right? I'm gonna type it in here. We know what dung is. A heap of dung or refuse. Okay, nobody wants to. You touch that, you washing your hands. You know, it's like you don't even want to be there unless you have to. So that is what a slothful man is like. You know, people don't want to be around him. He's ugh. It says an evil nurtured man, and it's crazy because it shows you how far society has fallen. That in the ancient world, this was the mindset. Now, almost everybody's a slothful man. In fact, people start to hate the opposite of those that are slothful. Oh, you're doing too much. All this, all that, because they don't want to feel. They don't want their conscience to be bothered, seeing that you are making them realize how slothful they actually are. It says an evil nurtured man is the dishonor of his father that begat him. See, so one that is evil nurtured, is ill mannered. They bring dishonor to their father, and a foolish daughter is born to his loss. See, it works against him, and there's a precept in Sirach where he mentions that it's better to not have any children than to have ungodly children. A wise daughter shall bring an inheritance to her husband, but she that liveth dishonestly is her father's heaviness. See, so a wise daughter, which is brought up correctly, she's going to bring an inheritance to her husband, right? Which is going to be gain. It says, he that getteth a wife beginneth a possession. See, but she that lives dishonestly is her father's heaviness, right? His stress. She that is bold and dishonoreth both her father and husband, both days shall despise her. Bold is like being, brash or, not shamefaced. And she talking back. She's, disrespectful. That kind of energy. She'll be despised both of her father and her husband. A tale told out of season is as music in mourning. Yeah, when somebody's mourning, and you imagine somebody's mourning, right, at a funeral or just going through a hard time, lost a loved one, and you come out here and you just put on blast freaking Tekashi 6ix9ine or Gangnam Style. That's completely out of pocket. That's what it's like to tell a tale told out of season. But stripes and correction of wisdom are never out of time. See, when it comes to correction or of wisdom, you can always it's always a good time for that. It's kind of like saying now is not a good time to breathe. Come try it again in 2 hours. Do you mean try again in 2 hours? There's never not a good time to breathe. Obviously if it's a bad smell over there, but shit, what are you gonna try to do? You're gonna try to get out of there so you can breathe. It says, whoso teacheth a fool is as one that glueth a potsherd together. This is what a potsherd looks like. It's a pot. See how broken up this is? Like even this, for example, if you try to glue this together, you may think, right, oh, you know what, I'm gonna try to seal up the cracks. No, it's not how it works. There's gonna be cracks that you don't even see. And it's gonna seep right through. So when you teach a fool, it's like you're gluing a potsherd together. And as he that waketh one from a sound sleep, he that telleth a tale to when you wake somebody that's like in deep sleep, they're disoriented. They barely even hear what you're saying to them. What you're gonna hear is huh, what, huh? And that's what verse 8 goes into. He that telleth a tale to a fool speaketh to one in a slumber. They're not listening. It's not it's not connecting. Okay, it's not sinking in. When he hath told his tale, he will say, what is the matter? It's like talking to somebody that's sleeping, and then you ask them a question, and then they do, what? Oh, yeah, yep. They did not hear what you said. That's what it's like telling a tale to a fool. If children live honestly and have wherewithal, they shall cover the baseness of their parents. Right? If they live honestly, they live good, and they have they come up, they have a good rapport, they have a good life. They're gonna cover the baseness, okay, of their parents. Wherever their parents lack, they'll be able to cover for it. In both in bringing glory to their house, but also in anything that is lacked, they will be able to cover it up. Right? It says here, but children being not haughty through disdain and want of nurture, lack, that's want, lacking of proper upbringing, do stain the nobility of their kindred. Right? You're going to bring a bad name to your house. Weep for the dead, for he hath lost the light, and weep for the fool, for he wanteth understanding. Yeah, people die, you weep for them because they're dead. But also cry for one that is a fool, because he lacks understanding. Make little weeping for the dead, for he is at rest. Right? So eventually, you mourn, but eventually your mourning comes to an end, because you know that the dead is at rest. But the life of a fool is worse than death. Imagine that. 7 days do men mourn for him that is dead, but for a fool and an ungodly man, all the days of his life. So you don't want to be a fool. All right? You don't want to be an ungodly man. Okay? Because your life is practically worse than one that is dead. Talk not much with a fool, and go not to him that hath no understanding. Beware of him, lest thou have trouble, and thou shalt never be defiled with his fooleries. See, so you got to be mindful of dealing, with a fool, lest you be defiled with his fooleries. Okay? And his his tomfoolery, jumps on you. You got to be careful with that. Depart from him, and thou shalt find rest, and never be disquieted with madness, because that's all that's going to come from his mouth, whether it's in arguments or recommendations or requests. It's just something that's going to disquiet your spirit. You're going to wonder, why is that even, like, who even thinks like that? Why? Just why? So if you depart from them, you don't have to deal with that. What is heavier than lead, and what is the name thereof but a fool? Okay, here is basically saying, when it says heavier, it means they're dense. If somebody says that you're dense, okay, let's see what it says here. Yeah, somebody like Drewski, he's dense. It says here, a dense person is someone considered slow to understand, thick-headed, or unintelligent. Okay, often struggling to grasp simple concepts, instructions, or social cues, even after multiple explanations. So guess what? That's a fool. Okay. Now, you may have, like, this is different, right? This is different from somebody that's just like slow of mind, but because even somebody that's slow of mind, it's going to take them longer, but they can still accumulate wisdom. A fool who might be able to, if he put his mind to it, will never attain wisdom. 10 years later, he's still the same fool he was 10 years before. Meanwhile, somebody who is maybe slower of mind, 10 years later, they're much wiser. The point is, it took them 10 years, but they still made it there. You could give the fool 100, 50 years, and he's still going to be in the same place. Sand and salt and mass of iron is easier to bear than a man without understanding. So it's easier to try and carry sand. You ever try to carry sand? By the time you get to your destination, it's all seeped out of your hands. Okay, but it's easier to carry sand than it is to put up with a fool, or with one without understanding, because he's just gonna irk you. Here it is, you're talking, and it's like you stop to think multiple times. Why am I even talking to this person? Are they even hearing what you're saying? They just want to hear themselves talk. Verse 16. As timber girt and bound together in a building cannot be loosed with shaking. Right? So, timber, like, as placed as a foundation, a pillar in a building that's firmly placed, as it cannot be moved, even when when the as it says, the building cannot be loosed with shaking, right, via an earthquake or whatever shakes it. So is the heart that is established by advised counsel. The heart that is established by advised counsel shall fear at no time. See, meaning that your heart, your mind is going to be stable once you undertake via wise counsel, because you're going to be confident in that. Um, verse 17: a heart settled upon a thought of understanding is as a fair plastering on a wall of gallery. Right, a heart that's settled on a thought of understanding. Okay, that you understand, like that the thought is coming to your mind. It makes sense, and you've accepted it. That union, that joining of that is like, as it says, a plastering on a wall of a gallery. Let's read that here in the GNTD. Let's see where we at, verse 17. Right, a mind that thinks through intelligently is like a firm wall finely decorated. Pails set on an high place will never stand against the wind. It says here, pails set on a high place will never stand against the wind. So a fearful heart in the imagination of a fool cannot stand against any fear. Okay, and that's it's like it's just signing up in my eyeballs over here. Lordy, Lordy, Lord. Let me read that again. Sirach 22 and 18. Pails set on a high place will never stand against the wind. Right? They're not gonna maintain. The wind is gonna blow them away. So a fearful heart in the imagination of a fool cannot stand against any fear. Let's read that in the GNTD. This is verse 18. Small stones on top of a wall will not stay put when the wind blows, and a person whose stupid ideas have made him timid will not be able to stand up to frightening situations. He that pricketh the eye will make tears to fall. Speaking of the eye, and he that pricketh the heart, which is the mind, maketh it to shew her knowledge. See, so when you prick the eye, tears will fall. If you prick the mind, how do you prick the mind? With questions. You cause knowledge to come out. Whoso casteth a stone at the birds freeth them away, and he that upbraideth his friend breaketh friendship. So just like if you throw stones at a bird, they all fly away. If you upbraid your friend, right? When you upbraid, it's it's not like just a rebuke. This is what upbraid. To find fault with somebody, to scald, right? To reproach. So this isn't like you're approving them or admonishing them. You're speaking in a way that can ruin or end a friendship. It's like throwing stones at a bird. You're gonna break that friendship. And though thou drawest a sword at thy friend, yet despair not, for there may be a returning of favor. So yeah, you might. It doesn't have to be literally drawing a sword at them, but you might be at odds. You might not see eye to eye for a period of time. You might have a disagreement. It's okay, it can be reconciled. But if thou hast opened thy mouth against thy friend, fear not, for there may be a reconciliation, except for upbraiding. See, you said something, you apologize, you guys patch it up, right? But if you upbraid them, right, or pride, or disclosing of secrets, see something they entrusted you with, you go and you air it out, yeah, that's it. Or a treacherous wound. For these things, every friend will depart, right? This is how to ruin a friendship 101. Be faithful to thy neighbor in his poverty, then thou mayest rejoice in his prosperity. Yeah, so somebody may not have it, they may be poor, but if you're still there for them in their poverty, guess who they're going to remember when they're prosperous? You. Abide steadfast unto him in the time of his trouble. Right? Steadfast meaning like you're there for him in the time of his trouble, that thou mayest be heir with him in his heritage. See, if he comes into some blessings, he'll share with you. For a mean estate, mean meaning a low, right? Somebody that's like low or poor estate is not always to be contempt, right? Contempt. Don't despise somebody just because they're in a low estate. Nor the rich that is foolish to be had in admiration. Just because somebody is rich doesn't mean they should be admired. As the vapor and smoke of a furnace goeth before the fire, so reveling before blood. So when you see smoke, you know that a fire is nearby or there. Once there's reveling, Eventually, there's bound to be blood. Somebody's going to get hurt. I will not be ashamed to defend a friend, neither will I hide myself from him. And if any evil happen unto me by him, every one that heareth it will beware of him. See, so when it comes to the defend or the aid of a friend, you be there, And if you're good to your friend and something evil happens to you by him, people will know. Yeah, no, this guy was always good to his friend. So whoever that friend is, you got to watch out for them, right? Who shall set a watch before my mouth, and a seal of wisdom upon my lips, that I should not fall, or that I fall not suddenly by them, and that my tongue destroy me not, right? So he's saying here, who's going to control my mouth, right? Put a seal upon it, of wisdom. Let wisdom be the gatekeeper of my mouth, so I don't go and say something that's going to bring destruction upon me. And that brings us to the end of the book of Ecclesiasticus, the 22nd chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.